Thank you everyone for joining us on the desk here tonight. This is Global Television. We're live in Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Uyi Agmofwebe. On the program today, we'll focus on some of the efforts the government is now making to alleviate the pains of Nigerians. Of course, we've talked so much about what the challenges have been, some of the major causes, the impacts these issues have had on citizens in the last couple of weeks in particular. Of course, for the most part, the underlying factor being the price of petroleum products coupled with the difficulty associated with being able to find it to buy and use. But as it stands today, the government has reassured because there had been some assurance from yesterday. So there's now again an assurance that by this weekend, which has already started, by the way, there's going to be a saturation of the product. And of course, that means that by Monday, close of business, is going to be a conversation totally different. But again, that depends on what happens this weekend. But the government is not stopping at just ensuring that there's availability of petrol across this country. It's also saying that people need to eat. And then, of course, they must be able to access food at prices that are affordable or overall within their means, that sort of thing. And rice, like never before, has become a big conversation in this country. And some people are now asking, at what point did it suddenly become that the only food in this country is rice? So everybody who wants to talk about cost of living wants to make some sort of instinctive reference to the price of bag of rice, and then, of course, bag of beans. Beans, again, is on a different level at this point because, for the most part, people are saying across this country that beans is now more expensive than rice. What the driving factors are, we probably can't be so sure, but then we can be certain that the cost of petrol, which again drives and influences transportation cost, is an underlying issue here. But government had said before now that there will be some 50 kg bags of rice that will each be selling for 40,000 naira. As is always the case in this country, we've seen doubting Thomas saying this is not possible. Government is just grandstanding. This again is another political, if you like, stunt being pulled by the Tinubu-led government. But it will appear government is making through its promise now, again with the caveats, the government is now saying that anyone who wants to buy this bag of rice must basically have a national identity number, which is the NIN. That should be fair enough because anywhere in the world you want to do something like this, I mean, it's a palliative, right? So there's got to be some standard means or mode of identification. So you don't have people coming with the intention to hoard this essential commodity. So there is already modality being put in place in that regard. And government is also saying that, look, let's be clear from the ground up, this is not for political parties or their affiliates or their allies and their cronies and what have you. It is for everyday Nigerians. So that's one conversation we're having tonight. And then there is yet a second one, which is in some sense also related to the first, and has to do with the fact that the NNPC is now saying that price of petrol will be determined by market forces. Maybe in the history of this country, particularly since independence or discovery of crude in Loibiri in the late 50s, never a time has the term market forces or even liberalization has been this popular. So it raises the questions about, one, what is market forces? How do these forces operate? And then the third question perhaps is, to what extent have they influenced the dynamics within the markets? But again, the NNPC is saying, we are not interested in pricing. We don't want to be involved in it. We are not influencing it. Market forces will drive this, the price going forward. And again, we understand that that will be determined as quickly as possible so that Nigerians will be able to resolve two issues. One, access to fuel, and then the second is the narrative around the price at which it's sold. There's one Nigerian who has been speaking to many of these issues over time. Some people say, well, for the most part, on behalf of citizens or masses as we know them, and that person is Bishop Matthew Kuka, who is now telling President Bola Tinubu-led federal government that Nigerians are hungry and that government has a responsibility to address hardship in this country. The thing is, this is a fresh piece of news because the bishop spoke today at the unveiling of the Progressives Institute, which again is the brainchild of the ruling All Progressives Congress. And he said, look, at the point he ran into a young girl and he posed just a question to her. He asked, are you a member of the APC, PDP, or Labour Party? And her response, according to Bishop Kuka, was that she was hungry, which means that hunger is universal in this country as it stands today. But again, the question is government really, in practical sense, having that conversation? And there is a fourth conversation tonight on the show, which has to do with security, and it takes our attention all the way to northwest Nigeria, precisely Zamfara State, where the government is now saying, look, we understand the enormity of work that we have to do regarding insecurity, but then we are resolved that we are not paying any money to bandits, and we are not interested in having a dialogue with them. Now, you're wondering, at what point did we start having this conversation? Well, the secretary to the government of the states, that's the Zamfara State's government, is now saying that there has been this report that has gone viral the last few days, claiming that Zamfara State government had made some humongous amounts of money available to bandits just by way of trying to placate them, ask them to step back a little and allow the people of the state be. On the contrary, the government is saying, look, we have never done that, we are not doing that, and we never will do that. As a matter of fact, we're not interested in going into dialogue with any criminal element. Well, just to create a quick summary for you, but then we're going to also establish context and insight as we make progress into the program tonight. Again, our guest is someone who has a handle on all of these issues, being a man who lives up north and has had first-hand experience with these challenges, particularly as it has to do with economic hardship and, of course, insecurity. When we return, we'll put all these four big talking points in front of you. Stay with us.
I've seen watch your network, Global Television, and I think it's a refreshing addition to some of the networks that we already have, to have competitive media and looking at news from different angles. The place to go is to watch Global Television because it gives you a different perspective, whether it is local news or foreign news, and even you're connecting with local communities in villages that I have seen. So we urge Nigerians that, this is the time to broaden the space, the source of information, of entertainment, and of enlightenment. And Global TV is the place to watch.
shi gani. Oh, ya can ya haka? Nan su wanda muka yi sai kai ba bai ce ta nan ka da ta wancan din ya fito ko
dan nan din ya fito amma kuma can din ma ba wai wa irin
an ba ni sirrin ma shi a hankali ake shiga ni da an zo ban gani an sama da karfi a hankali ake yi amma ai kamar sadu kuma kai na ci dariya muna ganin shi ma sai ya zagayo ya koma ya ce wai bai samu hanya ba ya zagayo ya rinka yawo a gaban mu muna ganin shi daga nesa ya kuram zauna da yi don da shiga cikin gida kan hayaniyan yaran nan. Ya faru wa? Ayo zafi. Gidan jinjiri abin da ya yi Allah ta ga celebration irin damu an cire a kunne haushin zai da ne sa kar mu tafi ya suka saka min ne kar saka min wani abu abin kan fawo kubanci jinjiri jinjiri to je mai tsara mu dai sako bayar da je ne abu wani ke za mu tafi ne ko mu barka na hanga ne tafi da kai ba tar da kunya ta men mana tabani haka ya lafiya kala ke ga wannan ina MD yake ce wai shi ma sai ne wannan naka ne ko? Ka zo mu ɗauka da shi. Na Amira lafiya kalau. Don ki ɗauka mishi mana. Aikin karan kuwa ina ga ba haka ba za su zo su da turaren mutane
Amid squeezing hunger across the country, the federal government has flagged off the sales of 30,000 metric tons of milled rice at 40,000 naira per 50 kg bag to Nigerians as a measure to cushion the impact of high feed prices that have persisted for over 1 year. Now, Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Senator Abubakar Kyari, did the flag off of the rice sale at the ministry's headquarters in Abuja. However, the minister said to make the sales more transparent and well monitored, there has to be certain measures being put in place. Of course, one of them being the requirements for the NIN, that's the National Identification Number. We're joined live this evening from Gombe State by an academic, that's a lecturer at the Federal University Keshere in Gombe, Dr. Babayo Sule. I'd like to thank you, Doc, for joining us on the desk.
Well, thank you very much. Good evening. And good evening to listeners out there.
Great. So first of all, I know you've followed the news the last couple of weeks, including at a point where the federal government had announced that it was going to roll out bags of rice to be sold for 40,000 naira per 50 kg bag. And now that appears to be coming to fruition, given that the government is now saying one of the requirements for purchase by Nigerians is to provide NIN. To what extent, in your own candid assessment, does this address the issue of economic hardship in the country?
Well, thank you very much. I think the major issue with the Nigeria's government policy is what we call the policy backlash or the trial and error approach toward a serious problem. First of all, I think the best way to cushion the effects of the current untold and unbearable hardship that the Nigerians are facing is to just glance and reflect to discover where are the issues coming from. Then, if you trace the root of the issues, then you should sincerely approach it. First, the Nigerian government is not rich enough, has not enough money to buy rice and sell to Nigerians that are interested at the cost of 40,000 naira per 50 kg. Let's assume, for example, which category? Because in the last news that I saw, it specified that only the civil servant. Now, if you say only the civil servant are not up to 20% of the entire Nigerian population. What about those non-civil servants? What about artisans? What about businessmen? What about other categories, farmers and all these things? Is the government saying that they are not entitled to be given an intervention or welfare package from the government? Then if it is assumed that it is going to be for all Nigerians provided they have what the NIN or the NIN number, then if about just, let's say, 20 million Nigerians are applying to get that subsidized rice at that packet, can the Nigerian government be able to afford and provide such amount, such quantity that the Nigerians are looking? I don't think it is possible and feasible. What I think the Nigerian government needs to do are both short-term and long-term approach. One, to me, what the government is now doing is as good as you are the one giving me, let's say, every month, you used to give me adequate food package that is enough to take care of me for the whole month. Then suddenly you now decided that I will no longer give you. Instead, I will now give you a package of 1 month as an intervention or a palliative, and then I withdraw henceforth from that. That is the interpretation of what the government is doing. We all know that it is the government IMF or neoliberal superimpose and supervise detrimental policies that are killing this country, which are implemented, that are causing all these problems. Now, what next? What next is simple. The government can easily go and look at some of these policies, find a way of meeting up at the middle level, because you cannot ask the government to go back entirely to where we were before. But you cannot advise this government if it really wants Nigeria to continue as a country, and if they really want to maintain civil order and obedience. I think the best advice that you can give the government is to find an intermediate level by looking at this. For example, while people have been protesting or other people protested because of the skyrocketed inflation, emanating from the fuel price increase, the government is now increasing. While the government is complaining, the government is still saying that the electricity tariff is not enough. The government is now proposing to increase VAT from 7.5% to 10%. And then the Naira is still being floated. It is now fluctuating in between 1,600 to 1,650. So these are some of the policies that push the poor into this squalor. So what will government do? What the government is supposed to do is to revise some of these policies. And the worst part of it is that the government proved to be miserable, to be mega, to be disrespectful to the feelings of the democratic Nigerians that voted the government by just offering a miserable 70,000 naira minimum that is not enough to even buy one single bag of rice for even an individual himself, talk less of a family man. So in this regard, I think this is not the solution. This is not, let's assume if all 230 estimated Nigerians wants to apply for this subsidized rice and the government is ready to give, then what next? By just giving me one bag of rice that is sold now at 85,000 naira, now subsidized at 40,000 naira, will you continue to give me every month? If not, then it amounts to nothing to me. I'm not saying it is not, the government has not done well, but what I'm saying is it is practically nothing. It has done nothing and it will not cushion anything. It will not ameliorate any issue as far as this regard is concerned. Then the second issue is, if the government decided it is just once as an intervention, what does that mean? It means nothing still. So what the government is supposed to do, and still to show you that the government is not ready to do the needful, is that we are now in the rainy season. Plot is right now, as you know, I told you that I traveled somewhere in the northeast. In fact, for almost 8 hours now that I have been traveling, flood has been washing away almost all the agricultural produce that is now in the farm. All the plants that are there, almost all of them are being washed in most part of these areas in these lands because of flood. So what does that mean? It simply means the government is unable to prepare before the dawn of the rainy season so that it will curtail the effect of flood in order to have a better yield and productivity in the farming sector. Which means at the end of the day, don't be surprised if the quantity that is going to be produced from the farming sector is going to fall down from what was produced last year, which is another issue. So the government is not even approaching the matter from a holistic perspective, rather just some kind of a cosmetic approach that will never remedy the solution. And I think it is better if we try to be a little bit serious. That will do good for us.
All right. Let's talk about the idea behind this focus on rice. It appears rice has suddenly become a star food for Nigerians. And there are other, staple kinds of food that Nigerians have been accustomed to over time. Why the focus on rice?
Well, because it is the major food now on the people's table in Nigeria. That is the common, the ordinary food now all over the country, wherever you go. That is one. And secondly, I think this is one food item that witnesses the most extreme end of level of inflation. Don't forget that just some 8 years back, before the emergence of the APC government, a bag of 50 kg bag of rice, a foreign one for that matter, is sold at 7,000 to 8,000 naira. Now it's 100,000 naira times what? Times almost 12 or times 13. And someone will tell you that the inflation rate is 37, 38. No, the inflation rate is over 100% now. By my own layman calculation, let them do their own economic perspective, which is about lying with statistics and manipulating the ordinary in order to continue to subject people to subordination. So the focus, I think, is because, one, this is the most common food that is almost taken in most of the households in the country, but this is also the kind of food that has become exorbitantly expensive to the extent that it is now beyond the reach of not only the common man, but even the uncommon man. It is now the extraordinary that can afford it. So I think that is why. And secondly, the government cannot go everywhere. What the government is thinking is, by subsidizing by a bag of rice, it is as good as if you subsidize the entire food stock. Why do I say so? Because if I am supposed to buy it at the cost of, let's say, 100,000 naira, and now I am to buy it at 40,000 naira, that means the 60,000 naira discount is enough also to cover the subsidy in spaghetti, in flour, in Maggi, in groundnut oil, in palm oil, and other in maize and other basic food items that I may need. So in other words, the government is subsidizing all the food stuff by subsidizing the most critical one, in which the multiplier effect will now go and affect all the other sectors at the same time.
All right, I think that's what we'll leave it with the issue of 40,000 naira 50 kg of rice. But we're also now hearing that the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited says the price of premium motor spirit, also known as petrol, will be determined by market forces. Now, on September 3rd, just this year, the company increased the price of petrol at its retail outlets across the nation. The price of the product was increased to 855 naira per litre from about 600 naira at an NNPC filling station somewhere in Lagos. It will be maybe a bit of hypocrisy, Dr. Sule, if we're to discuss on the program tonight and not take a look at the factors around petroleum products. Now, just to fast forward quickly, to say that the authorities have now assured and reassured Nigerians that petrol will be out in high quantity this weekend. All right. So what have been your thoughts in this regard, given the fact that just yesterday, the Vice President, Kashim Shettima, also invited the Group Chief Executive Officer of the NNPCL. He extended that same invitation to the Minister of Oil, that's of course Minister of Petroleum Resources Oil, and then to Mr. Nuhu Ribadu, the National Security Advisor. Is this again another angle to politicking, or do you see it as authentic effort at ensuring that we resolve the problems we're dealing with?
Well, thank you very much for this critical question. I don't think the government agencies and the government representatives are being honest with this issue of oil. First, to start with, I think I want us to understand that the issue of oil has now become a matter of national security. That is one fundamental aspect that I want us to know. Why I say so is simply because it is virtually associated with all facets and gamut of the entire life of the Nigerians today. And any issue that has to do with subsidy removal, determining the price and whatever, it will affect national security because it will affect the well-being of the common Nigerian, and it may trigger actions and reactions following whatever decision that is taken in regard to that. So to this, I will say that, as you said, it is hypocritical for the Nigerian government, or rather for the NNPCL, or a mistake rather, to say that the price of oil will not be determined by the forces of the market. There is nowhere in the world where the forces of the market today or the forces of demand and supply determine the price and the cost of the most critical commodity that is needed by a citizen. If it is so, then the government has no business existing. The government should just wither away and just allow individuals to determine the price themselves. It is possible, they can do it. But in as much as the government is existing, then the government must regulate. And this regulation should take into consideration the survival of the citizens. That is, I think, the number one factor as enshrined in our 1999 Constitution. Anything short of that, I think, is shortchanging Nigerians. So you cannot allow the forces of demand and supply to determine the price of anything that affects the most fundamental aspect of the entire life of your citizens. It is not done even in America. It is not done in Britain. It is not done anywhere. And if it is, we challenge the government to come out and tell us where this is done. But there is none. Because a study shows that there is no country on earth that is not giving oil subsidy. Why is Nigeria an island? Why are we so unique? Why are we so different? So that's one aspect. The second one, I don't believe that the Nigerian government would exonerate itself and point an accusing finger to the NNPCL and say that it is the one that is now fixing the price, that the government has no hand in it, to the extent that the vice president is inviting the group managing director and whatever. I don't believe in that. And the reason why I say so is it is not possible for such a critical decision to be taken without a consultation of the government, because as I said, it has an attachment to national security, and you cannot do what will jeopardize national security without alerting the government. So the government is quite well aware, but rather as usual, since they believe that the Nigerians are gullible, the vulnerable, easily deceived Nigerians will continue to believe then that they are serious, that they mean business, but in the real sense of it, it is just a deception. Now, let me give you my prediction. Let us wait and see what will come out of it. Now, my answer is this: nothing will come out of it. There will never be review downward review of the price. There will be nothing like this. It will just continue as it is. In fact, if Kia is not taking, it is already now in the market sold at the cost of 1,200 naira. That's how I buy it today. So no one will tell me that the NNP has fixed the price at the rate of 890 or whatever. This is just a deception. So I think the vice president calling either the national security advisor or whatever is just a game that they are playing. But rather, I want to assure them that it is a dangerous game, because in the fight between the powerful conscienceless and the powerless conscience, the former wins first, but the latter laughs last. This their recklessness, this their negligence, this their squeezing of the masses, this their inconsideration and insensitivity will never continue this way. In one way or the other, sooner or later, the masses will find their voice. And when I say they will find their voice, I don't mean that they will revolt or they will protest or whatever, but there are many legal means of expressing their voice. And don't be surprised, one of them is an election. It is coming. The PDP...
Okay, we're taking a quick break now. Dr. Babayo Sule, we would please ask that you stay with us, because we'll return to a few more conversations after this break. We're back shortly, everyone.
Okay, thank you very much.
The Archbishop of Sokoto Catholic Diocese, Bishop Matthew Kukah, has warned President Bola Tinubu and the ruling All Progressives Congress APC to urgently address the economic hardship in the country, saying Nigerians are hungry. Now, the bishop also appealed to the government to consider reducing the cost of fuel, which was recently hiked, leading to long queues of motorists across various filling stations. The bishop spoke at the unveiling of the Progressive Institute, brainchild of the Abdullahi Ganduje-led National Working Committee in Abuja. Dr. Sule, let's talk about this for a second. I'm sure you are probably more familiar with the path that Bishop Kukah toes in this country every time it's about politics, social issues, or the economy. Just today in Abuja, a few hours ago, he spoke at the unveiling of the Progressive Institute, which of course is the brainchild of the All Progressives Congress, the president's party, and he called on President Bola Tinubu as well as the ruling APC to say, look, two things must happen going forward. Deal with the issue of hunger, but beyond that, which is the second issue, address the price of fuel. Talk to us about what is spectacular about this kind of remark.
Well, thank you very much. First of all, I will appreciate him and express appreciation toward him for being bold enough to speak the truth before the power that is being. The reason is simple. Not every religious scholar, or rather a philanthropist and a stakeholder that has the effrontery and the boldness to face those in power and tell them the truth. This is either because of favor or because of so many things, or even because of fear. But Kukah is well known for his fearless comment always on critical national issues that has to do with the government, since even during military to the present date. I think he has spoken well, and I think that is one of the issues that I started talking before we went for a short break, that sooner or later,
the masses will find their voice. It's such people like Kuka, you, the media, and other people like him will continue to speak. That is why we want to see these religious clerics, particularly those that advertise the so-called Muslim ticket. Yes, you advertise the ticket for the public to vote for. They voted hidden on your advice. This is now when your voice is most needed, because you cannot advertise a candidate for me and then after I voted for him, while he's inflicting an unbearable hardship on me, you just keep mute. That is not how it is supposed to be. They are expected to come out and be vulgar and tell them the bitter truth no matter what. By saying the truth, you have automatically saved yourself of the future offenses or being guilty. You are now innocent. So it is good, and he has said it well, because one may ask himself, of what benefit is petroleum resources to the Nigerian country? An endowed country, which is the most endowed in Africa entirely in terms of the reserved in oil and gas, is Nigeria and Africa. And even in the world, Nigeria is among the top 10 or 15 of the most endowed in terms of reserved in oil and gas. But the suffering of Nigerians for almost 20 years now under the so-called Democrat that has been chastising and castigating military is always the issue of oil. Increasing price and always scarcity. Increasing price and always scarcity. What does that mean? Does that mean that they are unable to govern? Does that mean that they have an agenda? They should not forget that whatever they are doing now, we people are considering it as a punishment they are giving to us for our sin of voting for them, because by doing favor to them to vote for them with a good intention, thinking that democracy has given us the chance to vote for them based on our own will, what they are now paying us with for our term that we used to cast our vote for them is simply inflicting hardship upon us, which is unnecessary and uncalled for. There is no need. I didn't see any reason or justification. Or if you like call me a layman in the oil sector, if you like call me ignorant in the petroleum issue, if you like call me ignorant, but all that I know is it is uncalled for a country that is endowed with such resources to be facing such crisis and such chaos. Just this evening, I saw an analysis in one of the media outlet, Daily Trust, comparing the prices that is in terms of dollar value, comparing the prices of oil per liter in some West African countries, including Nigeria, Ghana, Egypt, and others. But what the Daily Trust, or the mistake that they did or failed to understand, is they indicated in the comparison that still Nigeria's is the lowest, but they forgot to look at the inflation rate in Nigeria, and they forget to look at the exchange rate in Nigeria and comparatively with the other countries that they are comparing. So these are some of the issues that I think are uncalled for. When you are going to make a comparison, don't just go and make one-sided comparison that will not translate into a meaningful understanding of the issues. And the comparison should be, what is the amount of Nigeria's naira to dollar? What is the amount of Ghanaian CD to dollar? This way, and what is the cost of a bag of spaghetti in Nigeria? What is the cost of the bag of spaghetti in Ghana? What is the minimum wage in Nigeria? These are some of the elements that you should ask all together in order to compare, and not just one-sided in order to continue to just suppress the gullible masses to continue just to be submissive. I don't think it is fair. So Kuka was right, and I appreciate it, and I'm urging and calling other clerics like him also to come out and say the truth. Because if they love this country and they are really patriotic, they should be wary of the consequences of what they are doing. I am afraid that if masses are pushed to the wall, they may become crazy, they may go wild. God forbid, we are not praying for that, we are not in support of that. But today, if anything bad will go wrong with this country, I will blame the leaders, not the citizens that did whatever they will do, because it is the leaders that are pushing them to the wall to do what they will do. So I don't think Nigerians deserve to suffer this way in their own country. In fact, it has reached an extent today whereby Nigerians are no longer interested in living in Nigeria. The country is ostracizing Nigerians away, because people are now finding it easier to live as foreigners somewhere else than to live as citizens in their own country, because of the hardship, because of government policy, because of policy backlashes, because of detrimental policies that they are being directed to implement. by someone outside who doesn't know nothing of our own economic policies and environments.
Okay, let's talk about our last conversation tonight, Dr. Sule. Now, Zamfara state government is saying that it will not pay money to bandits who are terrorizing the state or even dialogue with them. The government said it remains resolute in the fight against banditry, kidnapping, and other criminality in the state. Now, the state government said this in response to documents circulating online with claims that it had released huge funds to some bandits, kingpins for dialogue in the states. Dr. Sule, you and I have talked about insurgency, banditry, kidnapping, and what have you across the north. But this is northwest Nigeria, in particular Zamfara state, where the government is officially saying that first, there's no facts, there's no truth in the purported claim that the government had paid monies or intends to pay some monies to kingpins who are in kidnapping or banditry or whatever it is. And second, it says that it is not ready to go into dialogue with these criminals because it is resolute about dealing with them. What are the reasons we're even having this sort of weird conversation in the first place?
Well, first, I don't want to believe that the government is not really giving them compensation for them to release the abductees or the kidnapped ones, because I believe the Nigerian government has been debunking, but so many investigations and reports have been confirming. When the Chibok girls were abducted, and the Dapchi girls and so many other in Kagara and other places, there were reports and investigations that revealed that the government paid a ransom of millions or even billions of naira before some of them were released, because not all are released. But the government will always come out and debunk it as rumors, as baseless allegations and accusations and whatever. But the reality of the matter is, the only way that the government can claim that it didn't pay them is in a situation whereby it didn't pick anyone, but where someone is kidnapped or abducted, and then he is released, and you claim that you didn't pay a kobo, and you know that your security is not doing the needful in order to rescue the abductees or the kidnapped ones, then I think there is a mystery here. So I didn't believe that they didn't pay, and they are still not paying, and they will not pay. Then on their comment that they will never negotiate or dialogue with them, I think it's a mistake. There are three ways or measures in which you can counter such a guerrilla warfare. It is acceptable anyway, even religiously. I don't know about Christianity because I am not conversant, but I know in Islam it is allowed to negotiate with bandits in a situation whereby they repented, and a situation whereby you have confidence in them that they will denounce their own heinous acts and then repent. But there are conditions for that which I need not go into that because we are not into a religious session. But all that I know is it is allowed if it will bring the most needed peace in the society. So to say that you will not dialogue with them, I think is erroneous. Second, I think the only situation or condition whereby you will deny dialogue or you will never negotiate with them is when you know that you have the military capability to counter them and suppress them and then restore peace and order. But can Zamfara State claim that it has that such security capacity to do that? I believe it has not. Because don't forget that the governor himself just some month ago confessed that there is a sabotage from, I don't know which quarter he is saying, because he said from Abuja. He said sometimes he will tip the security that there is a security report that bandits are in so location. But once they are on their own way to go and deal with them, unfortunately they will receive a directive from Abuja cancelling the mission. So which means there is a sabotage. He didn't mention from where, but we know where it is coming from. So in a situation whereby you don't have the leverage, you don't have the capability to counter them fire for fire or even a superior power, then I think you cannot say you will not dialogue with them. It is a mistake. Third, I think what the government needs to do now is not talking, it's action. Let them do what they will do to restore peace, to restore tranquility, and then talk later. But don't be talking while people are being abducted, massacred, tortured, and brutalized, as well as tortured emotionally on daily basis, and you are still talking. I think it is not a matter or an issue of talking. It is not an issue of action.
Interesting, but what should we be learning, or what are the lessons we should be taking away from this right now? Because time and again, you and I have heard and even read stories of how bandits and insurgents have planted flags in certain local government areas. If it's not in the northeast, it is in somewhere in the northwest. What are some specific efforts we must make right now going forward to change, turn the tide and change the narrative for the better in 2 minutes?
This is not a new development. They that controlling over 60 local government in Northeast here by the Boko Haram, which is measured in terms of geographical size with that of England by size. And they are doing it in many states now, in Katsina, in Zamfara, and some part of Sokoto, and even Niger. So it's not a new story that they are even collecting tax. They must even be the one to grant permission for the resident there to go and cultivate their land, that they apportion some part of the farm produce for them, and so many other things. And they should even serve as their informant. I think the lesson we should learn is any government that fails to prioritize security, now the onus lies with the government. It has to do with ordinary me and other Nigerians. We are being abducted on daily basis, killed, tortured, massacred. But there will be a day when these people will start aiming those in power. And that is when they will know how dangerous it is and how reckless they are to allow things to escalate to such levels. So therefore, what I am calling all the lessons is that, first of all, give them an ultimatum. Be serious. Give them an ultimatum that, look, drop all your weapons, submit yourself before the law, and then maybe you plead for tampering justice with mercy. Maybe we will be able to look at it and ensure that maybe we have given you some kind of concession. After that, if they fail to do that, the state has no alternative than to counter them in the most brutal way, fire for fire. But the problem is issue of intelligence. I don't know. We have NIA, we have DSS, we have military intelligence, police intelligence, and others. But I don't know what all this intelligence are doing to the extent that these people are always evading any operation. They are operating with impunity. They even went to the extent of now appearing before the social media worldwide, unchecked, and all this. It is a national embarrassment. It is telling the citizens that the government is no longer protecting you. It is telling the citizens that you don't even need the government. What you need is just God's protection. And it is dangerous, because if we reach that level, there is every possibility that the citizens might no longer obey the government. The citizens may no longer play according to the rules of the game within the state constitution and so many other things. And then those in power will no longer have whom to govern. So it is dangerous. I think we should take a lesson. We should stop playing with fire. Of course, I'm not saying that the government is just allowing us to be killed unnecessarily, because they too will not be happy. What benefit will they have? But what I'm saying is they are not doing the needful. That's what I'm saying.
I can imagine. I would like to say a big thank you to you for coming on the desk today, Dr. Babayo Sule, Senior Lecturer, Federal University, Keshere, in Gombe State. So we hope you have a great weekend ahead of you.
Thank you very much. I also appreciate regard out there.
And those are the conversations on the desk for you today, Friday, the 6th day in the month of September 2024. I will say a big thank you to all of our viewers. Just to remind you quickly that top of the hour will be time for us to bring you the news cycle here on Global Television. I am Uyi Agmofwebe. I'll see you again.